زهرا بآواز بلند تر صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد.
ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى الجوهرة القدسية لبتول الأزراء فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله وسلامه عليها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وبعلها أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين وبنيها الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Mirzia, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumeen, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama, as-siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam arwahun al-fida, please recite your loudest salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and His Rahman and His Rahim. We have reached the last lecture in our series with you. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their hospitality, their kind words and comments, and at the same time to seek your forgiveness, that if in any way, shape or form I've hurt you, offended you with my words, with my actions, then I hope that you can, inshallah, find it in your hearts to forgive me. We've been talking over the last couple of nights, looking at different aspects of the life of Hazrat Zahra, trying to gain some little understanding of who this lady is. And as we said, وَإِنَّمَا سُمِّيَتْ فَاطِمَةً لِأَنَّ الْخَلْقَ فُطِمُوا عَنْ مَعْرِفَتِهَا. Her true ma'rifah can never be achieved because she has been named Fatima for this reason, that she will be separated from ever being truly understood. And it will only be on Yawm al-Qiyamah maybe that people will understand the azama of Sayyidah truly. That famous narration that you hear about, that when all of the people of Mahshar will be gathered and the caller will call out, lower your heads for Zahra is entering. This lower your heads, ulama have looked at it and said that what is meant by this? Because Yawm al-Qiyamah there is no Sharia. there is no hijab, there is no concept of these laws. So why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the caller, is calling out on behalf of Allah that to lower your gazes for Zahra enters? Ayatollah Wahid Khurasani, he says that the reason for this is that on that day, Zahra alayha salam will come in her true form. It's not out of hijab or out, but it is more that Zahra will come in her true form, that true celestial form, that hawra that Zahra alayha salam is, that if anyone was to look at her, they would be annihilated. None would be able to bear to see the greatness of Zahra alayha salam. We can't understand this lady. When they tell her that enter into paradise, and she salamullah alayha will start walking towards paradise, but as she goes towards it, she'll stop. They'll say to her, Zahra, why did you stop? Says, Ya Rab, أريد أن يعرف قدري في هذا اليوم. My Lord, I want these people to understand my true maqam on this day. I want them to understand who I really am. The narration says at that moment, tongues of fire shall rise up from hell and take all of those that oppressed Zahra and the children of Zahra and the Shi'as of Zahra and drag them towards hell. And then she will again cast her eyes over the plains of Mahshar, and she'll see a group of people who have been shackled and chained, destined to be taken towards hell. But كتب بين عينيهم هذا محب فاطمة. They've been chained to be taken towards hell, but written in between their eyes is the line هذا محب فاطمة. She will address Allah, say, Ya Allah, what is this? These people who are my muhib are destined for hell. They're being taken towards hell. The reply will come, Zahra, today is your day. Do as you please. Imam al-Baqir says that my mother Zahra will pass over the plains of Mahshar and picking up and doing the shifa'a of people in the same way that a bird flies over the earth picking seeds from the ground. One by one Zahra will take each and every one of her lovers, each and every one of her muhibbeen. Not just that, you hear that she says, I won't enter until those that cried for my son Hussein enter into paradise. But the narration is more than that. It's more than that. Not just those that cried for Aba Abdullah, not just the azadar of Imam al-Hussein. She says, my Lord, I want to do shifa'ah for all those who ever gave clothes to the azadar, for those that ever gave water, for those that ever said anything nice to them, for those that did any sort of good deed towards the azadar of my son Hussein. I want to do shifa'ah for all of them. This shifa'ah of Hazrat Zahra, I said on the first line, is in comparison to all the other A'imma alayhimu salam by Imam al-Hussein, is far greater. She takes everyone towards heaven, even if they have a slight connection towards her. This lady's adama is beyond understanding. And the only people that could understand her were those who were hamnur with her, those that were from the same light as her. There is a beautiful narration, it's known as the Hadith of Mufakhara. It's a conversation between Amirul Mu'mineen and Sayyida Zahra. The narration says this, that one day Ali and Zahra had gone out of Medina to go, they went traveling, sightseeing or whatever it is. They went outside of Medina, they were sitting down eating dates with each other. And Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, says, Zahra, who do you think loves who do you think Rasulullah loves more? Me or you? Hazrat Zahra says to him, Ya Ali, of course it is me. How is it possible? I am his daughter. He said, Bada'atun minni. I am part of him. Of course he loves me more. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Zahra, if you believe yourself to be truthful in what you say, let us go and ask your father himself. So they come back into Medina, they come and they sit in front of the Holy Prophet. Hazrat Zahra says, Father, says, who do you love more? Me and Ali, or Ali? Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, says, Zahra, I love you more, but Ali is more honored in my eyes. Amir al-Mu'mineen looks towards her and says, Zahra, I told you, didn't I? And why would it not be the case? أنا ولد فاطمة ذات التقى. Because I am the son of Fatima bint Asad ذات التقى, the one who was pure at taqwa. I am the son of that Fatima. Sayyida looks at him and says, Ya Ali, granted. But أنا ابنة خديجة الكبرى. But I am the daughter of Khadijah al-Kubra. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Zahra, أنا ابن الصفا. I am the son of the Mount Safa. She says to him, Ya Ali, أنا ابنة صدرة المنتهى. But I am the daughter of صدرة المنتهى. Says to her, Ya Zahra, أنا فخر الورى. I am the honor of all of existence. She says to him, Ya Ali, وأنا ابنة من دلى فتدلى فكان لربه قاب قوسين أو أدنى. But I am the one that was taken of the daughter of the one that was taken towards the maqam of Aw Adna. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, Zahra, Khadimi Jibra'il. Jibra'il is my servant. She says to him, but Ya Ali, وَأَنَا خَاطَبْنِي فِي السَّمَاءِ رَاحِيلَ وَخَدَمَتْنِي الْمَلَائِكَةُ جِيلًا بَعْدَ جِيلًا. Says, Ya Ali, my nikah was recited in the heavens by Rahil, and army after army of malaika are in my service. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, Zahra, أنا ولدت في محل البعيد المرتقى يعني في جوف الكعبة. I am the one that was born in the middle of the Kaaba. She says to him, Ya Ali, وأنا زوجت في الرفيع الأعلى وكان ملاكي في السماء. But Ya Ali, I am the one that was married in the highest of heavens. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, Zahra, أنا كسفينة النوح من ركبها نجا. Says, I am the ark of Noah, the one who embarks upon me is saved. She says, Ya Ali, أنا أشاركك في الدعوة. I too am an ark of salvation. I too am with you in this claim. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, Zahra, I am the one that the Holy Quran and Allah calls the nafs of the Prophet. She says, Ya Ali, I too am with you in this ayah where it says about the women. I too am with the Holy Prophet in this ayah. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Zahra, Ana Nurul Wara. I am the light of all of existence. She says, Ya Ali, you may be the light of all of existence. Wa ana Zahra. But I am Zahra, the radiant one. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her, Zahra, Ana Hamilul Liwa. I am the one that carries the banner of Islam. She says to him, but Ya Ali, Ana ibnatu man urija bihi ila as-sama. I am the one, the daughter of the one that was raised towards the heavens. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Zahra, Ana ibnu Salih al-Mu'mineen. I am the son of the Salih from amongst the Mu'mineen. Yani Abu Talib. Zahra, who does she bring in comparison to Abu Talib? How does she reply to Amir al-Mu'mineen? She says to him, yes, Ya Ali, you are the son of Salih al-Mu'mineen, but وَأَنَا ابْنَةُ خَاتَمِ النَّبِيِّينَ. But I am the daughter of the finality of prophets. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Zahra, I am the one whose name Adam used in order to ask for forgiveness. Zahra says, Ya Ali, granted, your name Adam used in order order to ask for forgiveness. But Zahra, I am the one for whose sake Adam was forgiven. 54.
كاف الورى شمس الضحى بدر الشجاع بدر العلا نور الهدى كاف الورى ناره
54 fadail are exchanged like this between them. 54. Al-Qatra of Ayatollah Mustanbit, those that are interested, says in there he brings all the 54 exchanges like this between them until Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, Ya Zahra, stop. Stop. Look towards Ali. He says, Zahra, he says, stand up, go and kiss the head of Ali. For Ali's fadail are greater than yours. For look, towards his left is Jibreel and Mikael with 4,000 malaika. And on his right is Rahil and Dardail with another 4,000 malaika. They have come down in order, they have left their ibadat, they have left the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have come down in order to listen to your fadail.
Muhammad Ale Muhammad Bantar
ثم صديقة الطاهرة أواز بلند صلوات
This is that Zahra, the one that is known as Zahra. Someone asked the sixth Imam, said, why is she called Zahra? He says, because whenever she would stand in the mihrab of ibadat, then for her salah, the nur from her face would light the heavens, and the people of heaven would utilize the night like the people would utilize the light like the people of the earth use the stars to navigate at night. As she illuminates the heavens. How can we understand her? What we can do is try and take from her. And when we understand her greatness, then we understand the greatness of her musibah, of her sorrows. But the purpose of Ali Muhammad was not just for us to have these stories, but was to guide us. Guide us towards that one reality. The reality that is Allah. For he himself says in Hadith Qudsi, كنت كنزا مخفيا فأحببت أن أعرف فخلقت الخلق لكي أعرف. I was a hidden treasure, I desired to be known, so I created creation so that they may come to know me. Ali Muhammad are those people, that path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no other path towards Allah but the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And so let us look at what it is that this Zahra has for us. What lessons can we take from her? One of the greatest and the one that is filled with the most musibah for us, but also one that gives us great insight, is her famous khutbah of khutbah Fadakiyah. When her right was taken by the first Khalifa and her workers were sent home, she, salamullah alayha, was at home. Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam never ever used the wealth of Fadak. Whenever the yield of Fadak would come, they would straight away on that day distribute it amongst the poor. But Fadak was a huge piece of land. It was given as hibah to the Holy Prophet by one of the Jews after the Battle of Khaybar. But in reality, if you look deeper in the books of history, That fadak was actually the property of Hazrat Khadija that was taken from her. And this hiba, this giving back, was simply returning the haqq back to Ahlul Bayt. Nonetheless, it was given that the Holy Prophet takes it. The ayah comes down, O Prophet, and give the haqq to your near ones. It says, what is the haqq and who are my near ones? وَآتَ ذِي الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ. Says that the haqq is fadak and it is for Zahra. He gives it to her. She has it for many, many months. And the workers are there. They come home, they tell her that the Khalifa sent people, they kicked us out, they locked the doors. And so it says at that moment, لَاثَتْ خِمَارَهَا عَلَى رَأْسِهَا وَاشْتَمَلَتْ بِجِلْبَابِهَا. She placed her khimar. Khimar is almost like an ammama that you wrap around your head. لَاثَتْ خِمَارَهَا عَلَى رَأْسِهَا. She wrapped her khimar around her head. وَاشْتَمَلَتْ بِجِلْبَابِهَا. And she wrapped herself in her jilbab. A jilbab that ran down to the ground, that dragged along the ground. And then she surrounded herself with the women of her, the women that were close to her, and some of the women of Bani Hashim. And she made her way towards the mosque of the Prophet. The narrator says, and what is beautiful about this narration, the narrator of this narration is Sayyidah Zainab herself, who is only 4 or 5 at that time, memorizes it word for word. She goes, she walks, and the narrator says that as long as Sayyidah Zainab and other people that saw her said, we saw her walking, her jilbab was dragging along the ground. وَمَشِيَّتُهَا كَمَشِيَّةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Her walking, the way she walked was exactly the way that the Prophet had gone. And so she entered into the masjid. She ordered that a curtain be placed between her and the Muhajirin and Ansar, and that a chair be brought for her to sit. She sat on the chair. There is a very odd line in this narration. It says, فَأَنَّتْ أَنَّا. Zahra let out a cry or a sigh, and everyone in the masjid began crying. With so much sorrow in her voice. فَأَنَّتْ أَنَّا. She let out a sigh, and everyone began crying. When they calmed down, she began her khutbah. Now in this khutbah, it's too big for us to look at in one session. But in this khutbah, Hazrat Zahra, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet, she moves on to explain the philosophy of 14 different worships. That Allah gave you salah, Allah gave you iman, He gave all of these things. For what reason? What is the philosophy behind it? Then she moves on to speaking about Amirul Mu'mineen. Says, and whenever the fitna would raise its head, my father would throw Ali into the mouth of the fitna, and he would extinguish the flames of fitna with his sword. And he came back. And then she reminds him, says, you are the people that would drink stale water on the side of the roads, stagnant water. You are the people that would eat dried meats that had been left out in the sun. And my father came and he raised you from this degradation. But the part I want to focus on, and there's many, many different aspects. Just even one line, if you take just her intro, she says, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله كلمة جعل الإخلاص تأويلها. She says, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. كلمة جعل إخلاص تأويلها. And a statement whose true interpretation cannot be understood except through action. Except through action. You can never understand La ilaha illallah until you act on La ilaha illallah. You can say it as much as you want. You can say it in adhan, iqama, in your salah, but that La ilaha illallah will never ever be understood by you until you do it in your daily life. But that discussion for another time. I want to look at a portion where Hazrat Zahra explains why this ummah fell into a state of degradation. And we can extrapolate it further into what causes a community to fall into degradation. Because you see our masajid and our Husayniyas are becoming more and more empty day by day. Whereas the message is still there. But yet next generation and the generation after that are not so interested in being within the messages. Our communities are becoming increasingly more liberal. They're becoming increasingly more a-religious. Religion has now become almost in some places like the hadith of the Prophet, that he said that وَلَا مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ إِلَّا رَسْمُهُ. Nothing will remain of Islam except tradition, culture. They don't pray namaz throughout the whole year, but they're definitely there for Eid namaz. Why? I don't know. Nobody knows. It's not even a wajib namaz. But our masajid are full. How is that? Does that not make, it makes no sense whatsoever. That why is it that for something that is a mustahab salah in the ghaibah of the imam, we're absolutely jam-packed. But for the wajibat, we're weak in it. And so it's as relevant to us today as it was as relevant at the time that Hazrat Zahra said. And generally, the kalam of the Imam, anything that the Imam and the Hujjah of Allah says is timeless. It may be bound for that particular time at that time, but its repercussions are for eternity. Because the Imam sees everything. The Hujjah of Allah sees everything. And so, I want to look at this particular portion. Because the Holy Prophet also says, he says that you, my ummah, will go astray like kama as-sabiqa, like the previous ummahs, like Bani Israel and all the others. حَظْوَ النَّعْلِ بِالنَّعْلِ وَالْقِدَّةِ بِالْقِدَّةِ. Step by step, in the same way that the previous ummah became misguided. How they all deviated. So you too will begin to deviate. And we can see deviations rearing their heads in our communities. Weird practices that have no connection to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They're coming into our communities. And so what causes this? And so we're going to look at the khutbah and see what it is that Zahra alayhi salam says is the cause of this degradation of a community. The first thing she says, فَلَمَّا اخْتَارَهُ اللَّهُ لِلنَّبِيِّ دَارَ أَنْبِيَائِهِ وَمَأْوَى أَصْفِيَائِهِ ظَهَرَ فِيكُمْ حَسْقَةُ النِّفَاقِ. Says the moment that the eyes of the Prophet closed upon this world and he left for the eternal abode, حَسْقَةُ فِيهِ النِّفَاقِ. Nifaq came inside you. Hypocrisy came inside you. You became absorbed and engrossed in hypocrisy. This munafiqat, this hypocrisy, in the Holy Quran there are over 300 ayat that speak about nifaq, stretching over 13 different surahs. In fact, there's one whole surah about the munafiqun. And where Allah gives the characteristics of what the munafiq is. The first reason for a community to start to degrade is when the munafiqeen are allowed inside them. Either they're given positions of power, or they become prominent. And by community I mean like families and wider, not the idara itself, but that also forms part of the community. when a munafiq is allowed to enter, then the disease begins to spread. And the worst part is that people know about the nifaq, know that this person is a munafiq and a hypocrite, but they're like, nothing to do with me. I'm not going to say it. Not my problem. I don't want to get involved. And you know, that idea is the reason that just for this one thing, that people say, oh, I don't want to get involved. Whole ummahs were destroyed. Ad and Thamud, the people of Nabi Saleh, why were they destroyed? The people of Nabi Shu'aib, all of them were destroyed. Nabi Saleh, the Holy Quran says, فَعَقَرُوهَا, they killed the she-camel of Saleh, فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِذَنْبِهِمْ فَسَوَّاهَا. He turned the whole earth on them upside down and crushed them underneath. Shu'aib alayhi salam, his people, all of them were killed. And even Shu'aib said, Ya Allah, why are you killing all of them? What was their crime? They used to short sell people. They used to swap around the weights, pretend they're selling you a kilo of something, but actually by the time you got home it's only 700 grams. They would keep 300 grams. For this they were all destroyed. But only a handful of people used to do it. And so someone comes to the sixth Imam and says, Ya Rasulullah, who were the people that killed the she-camel of Saleh? Imam says, it wasn't people. It was only one man. One man killed the she-camel of Saleh. He said, but Ya Rasulullah, the Quran is saying, فَعَقَرُوهَا, they killed the camel of Saleh. Imam says, I know. The Quran says they killed the she-camel of Saleh, even though one person killed it. Why? Because the rest of the community stayed quiet. They might have disagreed with it, but they didn't say anything. They stayed quiet. Same with the people of Nabi Shu'aib. Nabi Shu'aib said, Ya Allah, only a handful of these people were short selling. Why are you killing them all? Says Shu'aib, the rest of them stayed quiet. None of them raised their voice against this deviancy that had occurred. And so they were all destroyed. And so when the munafiq enters, remember that the munafiq is more dangerous than the kafir. And the Holy Prophet as a hadith says, I don't fear the shar of the kuffar, of the mushrikeen, as much as I fear the shar, the evil of the munafiq. Because the munafiq will sit next to you and try and take you down. At least the kafir, you see him coming. The mushrik, you see him coming. But the munafiq is right next to you. And you wouldn't even know until it's too late. In the tafsir of Nahj al-Balagha by the Sunni alim Ibn Abi al-Hadid al-Mu'tazili, he brings a narration. He says that in the final days of the Holy Prophet came to the masjid. The illness, the poisons coursing through his body, he'd come, the illness had overcome him, comes into the masjid, says to the people, come ask me whatever you want to ask me. My time is very limited in this world. Ask me. So one man stands up, he says, Ya Rasulullah, inni rajulun kadhab. He says, I'm a liar. Please, help me. I can't stop lying. So the Holy Prophet raises his hand and says, Allahumma rzuqhu sidqa. Allah, give him truthfulness. Let him be a truthful person. Another man stands up, says, Ya Rasulullah, says, Ana rajulun na'um. Says, I'm a man that sleeps too much. I sleep too much. Sleeping too much is a problem. Amirul Mu'mineen says 6 hours, that's maximum, that's all you need. Anything beyond that, there's a bit of a problem. Says, I sleep too much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Holy Prophet raises his hand and says, Ya Allah, take away some of his sleep from him. Now another man stands up, says, Ya Rasulullah, says, Ana rajulun munafiq. I'm a hypocrite. The Holy Prophet says, Ijlis, sit down. فَزِحْتَ نَفْسَكَ. You have embarrassed yourself. Sit down. Says, and then the Holy Prophet says to him, he says, embarrassment in this world is better than embarrassment in the akhirah. Meaning this crime of hypocrisy is such that even the Holy Prophet says that even the admission of it is a problem. Because the munafiq, although here might have zahiri izzah, but he will be dishonored in Yawm al-Qiyamah in front of everyone. He'll be dishonored on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is why, like in Munajat Sha'baniyah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, فَلَا تَفْضَحْنِي يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عَلَى رُؤُوسِ الْأَشْهَادِ. That, oh Allah, don't expose me on the day of judgment in front of all of these witnesses. He says, don't expose me. So what are the sifat of the munafiqeen? Who are they? So in Surah Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings out the characteristics of the hypocrite. It says, Al-munafiquna wal-munafiqat ba'dhum min ba'd. Says, when he talks about the mu'mineen, says, Al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minat ba'dhum awliya'u min ba'd. Says the mu'mineen and mu'minat are friends with each other. But the hypocrites, ba'dhum min ba'd, they're enemies of each other. And so you will have seen throughout your lives, groups of hypocrites, people who at one time were aligned, now they're enemies of each other. Because the munafiqs can never be together. It's only a matter of time before they turn on each other. So it says, the first thing is, بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْض. They are enemies of each other. يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمُنْكَرِ. They order towards evil. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ. And they stop you from doing good. They order towards evil, they stop you from doing good. Whereas the mu'mineen order you towards good and stop you from doing bad. But the munafiq is the other way around. See, let's give a practical example. The munafiq will be saying, there's majlis, there's something happening, in the masjid. Don't go. These people, they're all, I don't know, mushriks or mukassirs or whatever. Don't go. They're all like this. And so you shouldn't go to their gathering. He's stopping a person from doing a good act. This is the first sign of the munafiq. And then he'll encourage. Not just he'll say, oh, these people are bad. But he'll say, let me tell you about the secrets of these people. This person is like this person is like this. I found this out about this person. If someone ever comes to you with gossip about someone, know that person is a munafiq. Simple. Quran has said it, not me. It says, وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ. And they withhold their hand. The munafiq will never help anyone else. He'll only help if it's for his own benefit. Otherwise, he'll come and he'll talk a big game, but then when you say to the munafiq, okay, look, can you come and do this, take charge of this? I can't. But from the sidelines, the munafiq likes to talk. So he'll withdraw his hands. What is the effect of this? Nasullah. They forget Allah. They've forgotten Allah. Because the munafiq doesn't care. He forgets Allah. فَنَسِيَهُمْ. So Allah forgets them. إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. And surely the munafiq is a fasiq. He's an outward open sinner. So that's the characteristics according to Surah Tawbah. Surah An-Nisa says, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقُونَ يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُمْ إِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. So what does the Surah An-Nisa say? It says the hypocrite strives to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now his hypocrisy has gone to that level that he is not worried about deceiving people. He's trying to pull one over with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, look, I'm praying. Why are you not helping me? They try and deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will turn their deceit on them. And when they stand up to prayer, when they stand up to salah, they stand up kusala, sluggishly, slowly, like you have to drag them to pray. They don't jump towards salah happily. But you bring them for something else, I don't know, like a talent contest, and they all run. But when you call them towards salah, they're slow and sluggish. يُرَاعُونَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُذَكِّرُونَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And they only do it to be seen by people. Any action that they do, the reason they pray is only so other people will see them. The reason that they will come and stand.
محمد وعلى محمد
So we have this disease amongst us, that even when it comes to certain acts of worship, I will only take part in that act if my crew is doing it. Yeah? I'm going to say it like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides me rizq, and I only fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? But these sangat wars that go on. No, because my sangat isn't reciting, I'm not doing matam. Forget not doing matam, I'm not even coming inside. But when my boys are reciting, then who am I doing it for? Who am I doing it for? Is this not nifaq? As per the Quran, not what I'm saying, I'm just extrapolating from here. When it is my friend that has sponsored the majlis, I'll come. But when it's just normal, then no. And sometimes our mi'yar, our level is so low that I'll only come because I know there's something on the menu that I like. Imagine I sell my deen for some nihariya, biryaniya. Because these are all manifestations of nifaq. We don't think about it like this. But this is where the depth of it comes. So they only do it to be seen by other people. I only come. You know, so many examples are running through my head. You know, we go to someone's house to give them taziyah for, you know, Fatiha, their family member has died. And what is it that people say? It's so common in our community. Ya, I better go. I need to go to this wedding because they're not going to come in. Is this not nifaq? My niyat isn't pure. I'm only going to show that I came. Not with the pure intention that I'm here to be sharik in your gham. These are all different manifestations of that nifaq. So they only do it to show people. وَيَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And they only remember Allah a small amount. They only remember Allah a small amount. مُذَبْذِبِينَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ. Going between this and that. They're constantly with one party, then they jump to another party. Then they're part of this party, then they go on this side. Then they side with that group, and then they go with that group. Sign of the munafiq. It jumps from one side to another. Oh no, today he's haq. No, he's haq. There's haq, here's haq. They go from back and forth, back and forth. So it's the destruction of people. Zubayr. Look at Zubayr. Zubayr is, you know, there were 10 people in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen. 10 people at the janazah of Sayyidina. One of them was Zubayr. And the same Zubayr now stands against Amir al-Mu'mineen in Jamal. There are narrations praising Zubayr from the time of the Prophet. But when it came now, what made Zubayr change? Realized that he wasn't going to give him any power. And so he went to the other side. Maybe I'll get something from here. This nifaq, it creeps in. So they jump between one group to another group, and they never have a group. They'll always end up fighting. This person always goes to one group, ends up fighting with them, goes to another one, ends up fighting. Eventually they're left all alone. And this ayah says, and Allah causes them to deviate. Meaning that He stops extending that hand of hidayah to them. And they deviate, go off the path. This is per the Quran. Surah Al-Munafiqun says their words, when you listen to them, they will amaze you. They'll be sweet talkers. Their clothing will look really nice and it will appeal to you. كَأَنَّهُمْ خُشُبٌ مُسَنَّدًا. But they're nothing but pieces of dried wood covered in cloth. They're hollow. In a narration, the Holy Prophet says, ثَلَاثٌ مَنْ كُنَّ فِي فَهُوَ مُنَافِقٌ. Three things. If it is within someone, that person is a munafiq. وَإِنْ صَامَ وَصَلَّى. Even if they pray and they're doing sawm, they're fasting, they're still a munafiq. If they have these three things. What are they? The first, lying. If a person is a liar, person cons people, lies and swindles people out of their money, or just tells lies after lies. Certain people are just expert liars. They can talk themselves out with one lie, and the lies get bigger and bigger and more preposterous, till everyone knows that, wow, he really pulled out a special lie for this one. Says the one that lies is a munafiq. The second, the one that has a bad tongue. The one who swears, the one who's harsh to people. The Holy Prophet says, Sharrun Nas, the most evil of the human being is the one that the people fear because of his tongue. Because of what he will say. But nowadays it doesn't even need to be tongue. We can take that further into text messages and things. Videos, text messages, editing here and there to make people. Because that's that nifaq. The munafiqeen, that evil within them brings them there. They will take everyone down. And what is funny is that the munafiq will just jump from group to group. I'll give you a practical example again. This may offend. But recently, or not recently, maybe a couple of years ago, Ayatollah al-Azama Sheikh Hafiz Bashir Najafi, Da'im al-Dhillu, he gave a fatwa in regards to zanjir. Yeah? And people are like, mashallah, subhanallah, this is a marja. Yeah? He's good. He's good. 2 weeks later, he gave a fatwa talking about shahadat salisa. Because now on that side, he was part, oh yeah, I like what he's saying. Now I don't like what he's saying. Aliyun ma'al haqq wal haqqu ma'ali. There's no wavering on the haqq. When haqq is haqq, you stick with that haqq. Even if that haqq is something, say al-haqqu murrun, haqq is bitter. The sign of the mu'min is even if something doesn't agree with him, he swallows it for the sake of haqq. I said that the examples would hit home. But this is our reality. This is our reality. 1 week someone is great. The week after someone's the biggest evil person on earth. And if you see someone that has this sifat in them, they're a munafiq, stay away from them. Stay away from them. So the one that has an evil tongue, has bad words, says all of this. And then the third thing that the Holy Prophet does, it says, is the one that does khiyanat in your amanat. He betrays your trust. You tell him a secret, he goes and he tells other people. Or you entrust him with some money. You say, look, this is my money, or this is something, I don't know, a donation towards this cause, or something, whatever it is, can you hold on to this money? And they use that money for their own personal gain. They use it for their own personal gain. That person's a munafiq. 3 things the Holy Prophet said: lying, bad words, and betraying trust. So the first reason that a community becomes degraded is when there are munafiqeen amongst that community. When people become munafiq in that community. The second thing that Sayyida says, she says, تَرَكْتُمْ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَنَبَذْتُمُوهُ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِكُمْ. And you left the book of Allah, the Quran, and you placed it behind your backs. Meaning you no longer read the Quran, you no longer followed the Quran, you no longer pondered over the Quran. And goes back to that hadith, that one part of it I mentioned at the start, when it talks about the Holy Quran. The Holy Prophet said, يَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٍ, a time will come upon the people where وَلَا مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا دَرْسُهُ. Nothing will remain of the Quran but the teaching of it. Teaching in what? Parents will send their children to learn. And once they've learnt, when they've finished all 30 suparas, they'll give them a big party, and oh mashallah, my child finished the Quran. Did he learn anything? Did he understand anything? Did he implement anything? No, now he can put it away on the shelf just like I put my Quran away. It says, La min al-Quran illa darsu. Nothing will be left of the Quran. People won't want to ponder over the Quran, won't want to understand the Quran. They'll just want to learn it because it's part of their culture. And that's what they have to do. And even when they learn it pretty badly. And all the qawa'id of tajweed and the makhraj, all out of the window. And nobody cares about that. Seen and sad and what difference that makes and changes the whole meaning. Changes the whole meaning. Now that I've said it, just one example. Surah Tawheed. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ Allahu Samad, with a Sad. Samad with a Sad is the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one of the names of Allah. But sometimes I'm lazy, I can't be bothered to pronounce the Sad. So I say Samad with a Sin, I don't pronounce the Sad. Meaning changes now. To what? Manure, feces. All dirty things. Now you're saying Allahu, and if you're not saying the Sad, you've changed the whole meaning of the surah. And not just changed the meaning, now you've made it Tawheen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she says that the reason why you've reached this stage where you have usurped the right that Rasulullah had placed with Ali is because you left the Quran. You placed the Quran behind you. It was no importance to you. The second reason that a community degrades and is lost is when they leave the Quran. Now, Ayatollah Mishkini would say that every day I open up the Holy Quran to Surah Mu'minun and I read through it like a checklist. Do I have this? Do I have this? Am I working towards this? Am I trying to do this? To see if I have any of those characteristics within myself. The Quran is a manual for life. It isn't just the book of the dead. The Quran brings barakah in places. It brings barakah in one's life. It illuminates the hearts. Especially the heart that has become rusty. I can't cry when I'm doing dua. I can't cry when I hear masa'ib, I can't cry, when I think about my sins. They say if you have this problem, your heart has become hard. And so you can't connect with the spiritual realms. Why? القلب يتردد بين الملك والملكوت. Your heart is the thing that connects you from the mulk to the malakut of the alam, to the semi-material realm, the barzakhi realm of this alam. It's your heart that allows you to go in between these realms, especially when you sleep. When you dream, your soul leaves your body, it enters into the malakut. But as we get older, as our sins get more, we no longer dream, because this heart has become rusty. So one way to remove this rust from your heart is wake up and recite Quran at the time of Sahar, before Fajr. 5, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the actual time of Fajr, get up and recite Quran. And even the time of Sahar itself has huge barakah in it. Even if you can't pray Salatul Layl, just wake up at the time of Sahar and take in the divine rays. Anything that you want, ask at the time of Sahar and you will get. So the second reason she says is you've left the Holy Quran. Then the third thing she says, أُزِيلَتِ الْحُرْمَةُ عِنْدَ مَمَاتِهِ فَتِلْكَ وَاللَّهِ نَازِلَةُ الْكُبْرَى وَالْمُصِيبَةُ الْعُظْمَى لَا مِثْلُهَا نَازِلَةٌ. Says, and then the next thing that you did was you denied the hurma of Rasulullah, denied the honor of the Holy Prophet. And this, فَتِلْكَ وَاللَّهِ, this by Allah, nazilatul kubra. This is the greatest sorrow. This is the greatest musibah that you could ever have brought upon this ummah, that you destroyed the hurmat of Rasulullah. The honor of Rasulullah. The honor of the Prophet is what? His Ahlul Bayt. The hurma of Rasulullah is his Ahlul Bayt. The hurma of Rasulullah are his words, his actions. You've left his sunnah, you've left his seerah, you've left his Ahlul Bayt. This is the greatest musibah, she is saying. Sixth Imam, he says there are 5 honorable things with hurma that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed amongst you. Be careful not to break the honor of these things. 5 things. Says the first, hurmatu Rasulillah. The first is the hurma of the Prophet. Do not break the honor and the dignity of the Prophet. The second, hurma of Ali Rasul, the hurma of the family of the Prophet. Do not remove that from them. The third, the Quran. How is it that one, by not reading it, by not giving it importance, this is me destroying the hurmat of the Quran. By trying to look for all other types of books, but never once picking up the Quran to read it, to ponder over it, to see what it is that Allah is saying to me. The fourth thing, the Imam says, is the hurma of the Kaaba. Says Allah has placed this honorable thing in front of you. Make sure that you do not dishonor this Kaaba. And then the fifth thing, he says, is the hurma of the mu'min. The honor and the dignity of a mu'min. Hatta the narrations say that the honor of the mu'min is greater than the Kaaba itself. Says you can destroy the Kaaba, but you cannot destroy the character of a mu'min. The hurma of the mu'min is greater than the Kaaba. Imam Sadiq, one of his companions, comes to visit him, and the Imam doesn't pay him any attention. He says, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? Imam says, why is it that you belittle us? He says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't belittle you. who's one of the close companions. Imam says, yes, of course you do. You dishonored us. So, Ya Rasulullah, how did I dishonor you? He says, when you were in Jawfa, coming back from Mecca, there was a mu'min that looked to you and asked you to ride with you on your camel. And you looked at him and looked down at him with your eyes and you rode away. He says, you dishonor a mu'min, it is like you have dishonored us, Ali Muhammad. So the hurma of the mu'min equal to the hurma of the imam. And now for us, the hurma of the mu'min is free game. We don't care about the hurma of the mu'min. I'll spread rumors, make up lies, I will, do everything that I can in order to bring down another mu'min, another believer. In some way, shape or form. Out of jealousy, out of arrogance, whatever it may be. But the disease is there, and so now I try and I bring down the mu'min. And the adab for the one that brings down the mu'min is massive. One that dishonors the mu'min. The narration says, Man adha mu'minan walau bishatri al-kalima. Says the one that hurts the feelings of a mu'min, even to the extent of one word, or a part of a word. جاء يوم القيامة مكتوبا بين عينيه آيس من رحمة الله. Says that on the day of judgment, that person that dishonored a believer, on the day of judgment, he will be resurrected and it will be written between his eyes, this person, آيس من رحمة الله, this person is away from the mercy of God. This person is ma'yus of the mercy of Allah. He will never be able to achieve it. What did he do? He just said one word that hurt the heart of a believer. I get angry and this applies to our marriages as well, to our spouses, because alhamdulillah, most of us are married to mu'mineen and mu'minat. Mu'minat, obviously you are married to mu'minat, and above are married to mu'mineen. Inshallah. So, times are changing. We joke about it, but we're dealing with cases of it. Astaghfirullah. So, even in your own homes, disrespecting your spouse, your children, all of it. This comes under that same thing. Man adha mu'minan walau bishatri al-kalima, even to the extent of one word, it will be written upon in between his eyes on the day of judgment. This person is distant, is deprived of the mercy of God. But the narration doesn't stop there. وَكَانَ كَمَنْ هَدَّمَ الْكَعْبَ وَالْبَيْتَ الْمُقَدَّسِ وَقَتَلَ عَشْرَةَ آلَافٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. It says it is as if not just he is deprived of the mercy of God, but saying one word that hurts the heart of another believer, it is like you have destroyed the Kaaba, Baytul Maqdis, and killed 10,000 innocent malaika. With one word. With one word. So the second reason is not maintaining, the third reason is not maintaining the honor of those things that are sacred. The fourth reason that Sayyida gives, وَأَطْلَعَ الشَّيْطَانُ رَأْسَهُ مِنْ مَغْرَزِهِ حَاطِفًا بِكُمْ فَأَلْفَاكُمْ لِدَعْوَتِهِ مُسْتَجِيبِينَ. Says, and Shaitan came towards you and overcame you, and you replied to his call and you ran. Bibi is saying, she's not talking about fadak here. This is about those that have done the ghasb of khilafat. She is saying that what you have done is because Shaitan overcame you and you ran to his da'wat. He invited you, you ran towards him to do what you did. You obeyed shaitan with your actions. Shaitan is constantly looking to overcome a person, constantly looking to move a person from haqq. He'll use different ways, different methods. The weapons of shaitan, according to narrations, are anger, shahwa, desire, and mal, wealth. These three things he uses in order to misguide a person from haqq. Take them away. He's constantly attacking. You know the ayah of the Holy Quran where he says, and I will come to them from their left and their right and in front of them and from behind them. Imam al-Baqir salawatullah wa salamu alayhi says that when he talks about the front, each of these is a different angle of attack, but it's with a different type of misguidance. When he attacks from the front, he makes a person view his akhirah lightly. Doesn't think about his akhirah. He doesn't think about the day he will die. He doesn't think about leaving something so that he can send it towards the eternal abode. When he says attacking from the back, it is that he will begin to whisper to a person to amass wealth. Say, don't spend it, keep it all to yourself. Amass it. It will make him miserly. It will make him a miser. And then the most interesting part here is that this person, with this attack from the back, make him amass wealth, it will make him focus solely on his children and his inheritance. All he will say is, no, I'm working so I can leave it for my children. Leave it for my children. What will my children do after me? How will they survive after me? This statement is a statement of kufr. What will my children do after me? You are not the sustainer of your children now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sustaining them. Musa alayhi salam, and I'm sure I mentioned this here before, that just as his time of death came near, Malik al-Maut came, said, Musa, time is up. He says, ask Allah, give me a few moments, let me bid farewell to my children. Allah says, give him time. Musa alayhi salam goes, he hugs his children, says, my time is now ended, I need to return back to Allah. Hugs his children, begins to cry. His children say, Father, are you crying for fear of death? Musa alayhi salam says, no, I'm not crying for fear of death. I'm crying about what will happen to you. How will you survive after me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down Jibreel. Says, show him. Jibreel moves his wing. All of existence moves aside. And Musa is found at the side of the Nile. Again, Jibreel moves his wing. The Nile parts. And underneath is a huge stone. Again, Jibreel moves his wing and the stone lifts up. And underneath this stone is a small ant-like creature with a blade of grass in its mouth, eating and saying, Alhamdulillah. Allah reveals to Musa, says, Musa, I am that Lord that does not forget about the rizq of this tiny ant-like creature that exists under all of this existence. How do you think that I will forget about your children? I am not the sustainer of my children. I am but the wasila that they receive. This whole world is based on wasila. This whole world is wasila. Those that deny it can deny it all they want. The whole world is on wasila. One can't do anything without wasila. I can't reach Allah without, no one can reach Allah. We explained this in Muharram, how something that is material can never reach that which is immaterial. There has to be a go-between. This is a philosophical, ontological argument. But this whole world is based on wasila. And the wasila for the rizq that is coming from Allah to Ali Muhammad, to Mikael, to me, to give to my children. This is a silsila. It all goes in a silsila. The top of the chain is Allah, always Allah. But it peters down through existence, through the realms of existence. So he says when he attacks them from the back, he'll make them amass wealth. From the right, he will bring doubts in their deen. He'll make them destroy their own faith by their own hands. They'll begin to question, but they won't go to anyone to ask. They'll go to people that are na'ahl, people that don't have the knowledge, and get given half answers. And so they themselves will destroy their own deen. From the left, he will make the person's desires overpower him. Right? So the fourth reason that a community is destroyed is when they allow shaitan to take over them from these different angles. 4 things from the khutbah. The khutbah is long. There's so many different lessons we can give. Multiple volumes have been written by our ulama on the sharh of this one khutbah of the day, on the tafsir of this. That all that she is doing and telling us in this khutbah. And so we can take this from her life. And then we take one other thing that we all do, but just 1 or 2 minutes about it, is that tasbih of Hazrat Zahra. You've all heard of the concept of Tayy al-Ard. Asif al-Barakhiyya went from one place to another place in the blink of an eye. It's the ability to transport yourself from one place to another in the blink of an eye. Tayy al-Ard. There is also an idea that is known as Tayy al-Zaman. Tayy al-Zaman, where you can fold. Tayy al-Ard is you fold the earth and you travel across it. Tayy al-Zaman is where you fold time. So in a short amount of time, you can do a lot of things. This is a huge, if one can do this, it's massive. And this is one of the benefits of the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra. It enables you to do Tayy al-Zaman. It says that the person, the effect of it, according to the 6th Imam, is that it increases, the one that is da'im, regular in reciting tasbih of Hazrat Zahra, it increases his time for him. Meaning that he may live only 70 years, but in his life he will achieve 140 years worth of achievements. The effect of that tasbih of Hazrat Zahra is that it gives barakah in your time. Those people that say, oh, I don't have time, recite tasbih of Hazrat Zahra. If you sit after your salah and say, oh, I don't have time, believe me, just try it. Sit down and just recite that tasbih. You'll see that not much time passes if you recite it with concentration. If you recite it with concentration.
Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad
And not just when you're awake, it also helps you make use of your sleep as well. Your sleep as well. If you recite the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra before sleeping, in your dream, whatever task you needed to complete, whatever mental task you needed to do, you will begin to achieve those things within your sleep as well. The Urafa all were constantly indicating, pointing towards the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra. When asked, which tasbih should I do? They all say, do the tasbih of Hazrat Zahra. Because it has all of Tawheed encapsulated within it. The 6th Imam says, we would enforce this tasbih on our children like we enforce wajib namaz. We would make them recite it. And the one who recites it, the narration says, will always die on haqq. Will die on haqq. If they are someone that regularly recites it, they will die on haqq. So we have the khutbah, we have the tasbih. Inshallah, we can try and implement those things within our lives as a way of honoring Sayyida Zahra. Because tears, yes, they are important for Hazrat Zahra. But our amal, is far more important. But tears are natural. Tears are natural. Anyone who hears about the tragedy of Az-Zahra, these tears are natural. They will come from any pure heart. Because this lady with all this azama, and she faces all of this musibah. Yesterday we left the narration at the part that Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Hassan run inside the masjid. They call out, Matat Ummuna. Ali stands and Ali faints. They say they sprinkled water on the face of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen woke up and he ran towards the house. They say Ali was in such a rush, he kept stumbling. His abba kept catching under his feet. He ran towards his Zahra. He came inside the room. He sat by the body of Zahra. He wept. Ali wept. The people began gathering outside of the house. Amir al-Mu'mineen went outside. He told them all to go home. Said that the funeral of Zahra has been delayed. We will let you know when it happens. All of them went. The night, you know that Hazrat Zahra Shahadat happened at the time of Maghrib, between Maghrib and Isha. So the night had set in. And so Ali alayhi salam begins to prepare the room for ghusl. He tells his children, all of them, to stay outside. He sends Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, he says, go call Salman. Because Salman minna Ahlul Bayt. Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein go. Salman says, in the middle of the night, I heard someone knocking on my door. He says, I opened the door and I saw Hassanain alayhi salam, tears in their eyes. They said to me, Salman, our father Ali says, you are minna Ahlul Bayt. Come if you want to take part in the janazah of our mother. Salman says, they ran ahead, I ran behind them. I came to the house of Ali. What is it? Salman says that Ali has said to everyone. He came out, he told all the children, says, children, don't cry loudly in case the enemies find out that we are about to bury your mother. And so Salman says, I looked around and the children of Ali, some had their hands in their mouth to hide their cries. Others were biting onto their clothes to stifle their cries. Says Ali went inside the room to give ghusl. A cloth was placed. Ali was giving ghusl from underneath the cloth. Asma bint Umays was pouring water. Ali began to give ghusl to Zahra. They say Ali, as he passed his hands over Zahra, at one point Ali himself pulled his hand back. He ran, he placed his head against the wall. He began to scream loudly, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. They came to him, they said, Ya Ali, you yourself requested us not to cry loudly. Ya Ali, why are you crying? He says, because today, while I was giving ghusl, I realized those wounds that Zahra had hid from me. My hand touched the place of that broken rib of Zahra. Ali goes back, he completes the ghusl, he completes the kafan. Now he begins to call the children. Says Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein, Zainab, Kulthum, هلموا تزودوا من أمكم فهذا فراق ولقاء في الجنة. Says, come, bid farewell to your mother, for this is your separation from her, and then you will only be reunited with her in heaven. The children ran towards Hazrat Zahra. Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein threw themselves on the chest of Hazrat Zahra. They held on to their mother, crying, wailing. Amir al-Mu'mineen narrates, he says, by Allah, the moment I saw that Hussein and Hassan were there and they were holding on to the body of Zahra and crying, says at that moment I heard a call from heaven. Oh Ali, move Hussein from the body of Zahra. Move Hassan from the body of Zahra. For the angels of the heavens have begun to cry. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, he went forward. He lifted Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein. Sa'ad Allahu qalbaka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Ali, you lifted Hassan and Hussein with so much love. The orphans of Zahra with so much love. Ya Ali, you weren't there in Karbala. Come and see how the orphan of Hussein is moved. They say that Sakina came and she held on to the body of Abi Abdullah. They surrounded her. فاجتمعت عدة من الأعراب. A group of men surrounded her. فجروها. They began to pull. They say, why is it that a group of them came? Was one man not sufficient for a 4-year-old girl? They say, no, the girl had held the body so tight that a group of them came to pull her. But they didn't just pull her, they had whips in their hands. Amir al-Mu'mineen prepares the body to be taken to be buried. Ali alayhi salam reaches the place where his Zahra needs to be buried. Zahra hiya layla. Zahra is the night. And this is the night where the night is buried into the earth. Ali buries his night with his own hands. He digs the grave. He wants to lower the body of Zahra inside. At that moment, some of the narrations say 2 hands, like the hands of Rasulullah, appeared. Said, Ilayya, Ali, give back my Zahra to me. The body of Zahra is lowered into the grave, and here Amir al-Mu'mineen recites a madhiya that breaks the heart. Says, Ya Rasulullah, لقد استرجعتك الودية. Ya Rasulullah, I have returned your amana to you. You know why? Because when Rasulullah, at the marriage of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Zahra, he gave the hand of Zahra to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, Ya Ali, هذا ودية الله وودية رسوله. Says, oh Ali, this is the amanat of Allah and the amanat of Rasulullah. Ali, take care of this amanat. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, فلقد استرجعت الودية وأخذت الرهينة. Ya Rasulullah, this isn't I have returned. استرجعتك الودية. It's not I've returned. They forced me to return her. They forced me because of the zulm they did on her. I'm returning. I'm being forced to return this amanat back to you. I'm being forced to give this great treasure back to you, Ya Rasulullah. Now my nights will be filled with sorrow and pain. My nights will be filled with sleeplessness. Amir al-Mu'mineen buries Zahra and then he sits by her grave. Ali on this day didn't just bury one person. 2 people were buried in the grave of Zahra. Zahra and Ali as well. Because he sits by her grave and says, نفسي على زفراتها محبوسة يا ليتها خرجت مع زفراتي لا خير بعدك في الحياة وإنما مخافة أن تطول حياتي. Oh Zahra, how I wish I had died with you today. Ya Zahra, how I wish I too had left this world with you today. The only thing I, Ali, fear in this world now, Zahra, is that I have to continue living without you by my side. This Fatima was buried with that musibah, but when I look at the history of Ali Muhammad, there was one other Fatima whose death was the shabi of this Fatima. But that Fatima was that Fatima Saghira, that 5-year-old Fatima, that 4-year-old Fatima, that Sakina of Aba Abdullah. Here Zahra alayha salam saw her father in her dream. There in Damascus, Sakina saw Aba Abdullah in her dream. She woke up crying and wailing, saying, where is my father? I just saw my father. I just saw my father. All the women began wailing. They all began crying. They brought the head of Imam al-Hussein. She begins to recite her Marthiya. أبتا من الذي قطع والديك أبتا من الذي أيتمني على صغر سني. Father who orphaned me at such a young age. Father who cut the veins of your neck. Then they say she placed her lips on the lips of her father. As soon as she placed her lips on the lips of her father, the girl died. They called the woman to give ghusl. The second shabi with Zahra is here. Ali gave ghusl to Zahra, and when he reached the place of that wound, he pulled back his hand crying. When they were giving ghusl to Sakina, the woman that was called to give ghusl, as she is pouring water and washing the body, at one moment she pulls her hand back. She says, who is the elder of this girl? Who is the elder of your family? Zainab al-Kubra comes forward. Zainab says, I am the elder. She says, Bibi, was this girl ill in any way? She says, no, why do you ask? She says, her back is filled with black marks and scars. What happened to this girl? Zainab begins to cry, says, don't ask, it was sugar and the whips of sugar. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم زهراء ماتم حسين.